Alright, this is pretty much on a whim. I saw that my fellow YouTuber Zach Goller reviewed this movie the other day, and after watching it I was like, yeah, holy crap, that sounds like a good idea. Let's revisit this movie from when I was a kid. Add on the fact that I am a huge Haunted Mansion fan to begin with. It's one of my favorite rides at Disneyland, I love it to death. And also the fact that Disney's coming out with a reboot in just a few months. So I was like, yeah, alright, why not, let's go back.
There's no turning back now. The Haunted Mansion.
So The Haunted Mansion came out back in 2003. I was in elementary school at the time. And of course it's based off of the ride at Disneyland. It's actually one of the oldest rides at the park. It opened way back in 1969. Although when I say this movie is based on this ride, I say that very loosely. Because the ride itself actually has a lot of its own lore and backstory. That's one of the things I love about it. I mean, you got the ghost bride, Constance Hatchaway, the Hatbox Ghost, you got this whole eerie backstory. Although I actually don't think that was invented until after this movie, but it did still have its own backstory. What I'm getting at is that this movie does not honor that backstory at all. It makes its own stuff up. Story-wise anyway, but visually, yeah, it does feature a lot of the stuff that you know from the ride. I'll get to that a little later. The premise of this movie is that we have real estate agent Jim Evers, played by Eddie Murphy. He gets a call from this mansion. They're like, yeah, come over here, check out the house, because we want to sell it. So he and his family go over to the Haunted Mansion. And from there, it's pretty much your basic Haunted Mansion story. The family ends up getting trapped in the house. There are ghosts and creepy things around the house because there's a curse. It's pretty cliche. And that's honestly part of what I can say about it. The movie's not it's not a fantastic movie by any means. If you're looking for a scary movie for kids, there are a lot scarier movies out there for kids, like Coraline or Paranorman. Or even if you're looking for a movie in which things make sense, you're not gonna find it here. That being said, the movie is still kind of fun. What can I say? It's like baseline fun. You can still kick your feet up and enjoy it for what it is. I mean, Eddie Murphy, he gave it his all in this movie. Because he probably knew what he signed up for. He's going over the script and I can imagine he was like, okay, this movie doesn't make any sense, but it's for the kids, so I'm gonna have fun doing this movie because it's a kid's movie. Then again, some of the jokes in the film went over my head as a kid. I watch it now and I'm like, alright, I get that now. I mean, it's been years since I watched this movie. So some of the jokes felt pretty fresh. I was like, alright, I get that. That's cool. Best part of the movie though, creepiest scene stealer here, Terrence Stamp. Terrence Stamp plays the butler Ramsley. And it's pretty much a no-duh situation in which he was cast. You're like, yeah, you're a walking corpse, come play our weird butler. He talks like Terrence Stamp because he's a proper butler. The guy chews scenery, he's great in this movie. Unfortunately, not all the acting in this movie is great. You have Marsha Thomas in here who plays Sarah, Jim's wife. Right now you might be thinking, who's that actress? Yeah, I wouldn't blame you for thinking that, because I haven't seen her since this movie, I don't think. I don't remember anyway. Because her acting in this movie is not that good. Kind of a shame really because her role is pretty important here. And then you have their kids and their kid actors in a live action Disney movie. But at least you can pass that off as, alright, they're kids in a kid's movie, that's why they're bad. With the wife, there's no excuse. Come on, Rob Minkoff, you directed The Lion King. This is the best you could do? He directed this movie. The thing about this movie is, I'm gonna actually preface this by saying, I know that adaptations don't have to be true to source material to be good. As long as the story it's telling is good, that's what matters. And I still hold to that, but I say that to say that as I was watching this movie, I noticed that the story it's telling doesn't really have anything to do with the Haunted Mansion stuff you see in this movie. All the stuff we know from the ride, the singing busts are in this movie, Madame Leota's in this movie, played by Jennifer Tilly, but they all seem really shoehorned in. I really think whoever wrote this movie, they were writing a story, and when they pitched it, the execs were like, alright, no one's gonna see this movie. But if we sprinkle in some Haunted Mansion stuff from Disneyland, maybe then people will go see it. But they didn't weave those things into the story in a cohesive way. They're just kind of thrown in there at completely random times, so people could be like, oh, that's from the Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland. Granted, I like seeing it on the big screen, cause yeah, it's based off the ride I love. But they've got nothing to do with the story at hand concerning Master Gracie, the actual curse placed upon the house with the butler, Ramsley, and the ghost bride in this movie who's named Elizabeth. That's all the made-up stuff for this movie. Again, that's not from the lore from the ride. Which, again, that doesn't bother me. What bothers me about it is that this new plot they came up with, it's really cliche. Like this plot revolving around a curse and a ghost bride, I feel like that could be an episode of Scooby-Doo. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's been an episode of Scooby-Doo. Any Scooby-Doo experts out there who might be watching this, yeah, hey, Mainly Movies, how are ya? If you're watching this, tell me there's been an episode of Scooby-Doo revolving around a ghost bride in a haunted mansion. Tell me that's happened, because I'm sure it has. Yeah, thank you. And then things happen in the movie that just straight up don't make any sense. Like, where is the logic in that? Like the scene after Jim Evers talks with Madame Leota, and the floating instruments are chasing him down the hallway, I was like, why is this happening? Why is he being chased by Sgt. Pepper's No Hearts Club Band? That's just so random. But in a weird way, I almost feel like the movie knows it's illogical. It knows it's just made for kids, it's not for adults, because adults are gonna pick this thing apart, like I've been doing. Yeah, I remember loving this movie when I was 8. That's why we got it on DVD. Because kids watching this movie, they don't know any better, they're not movie critics. They just like the fun romp that this movie is. This is the kind of movie where you gotta turn off every single logic board in your brain, and just lie back and rest in peace in order to enjoy it. If you require any logic or reason at all, you're probably not gonna like this movie if you haven't seen it. As for the music in this movie, it's funny. The movie starts out with that classic Haunted Mansion theme. Da 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 da. That grim grinning ghost theme. And I was like, alright, yeah, I love the fact that they used the music from the ride. That's what you should do. Which again, actually also seems shoehorned in. Because really the song Grim Grinning Ghost has no real relevance in this movie. The singing bus sing the song like once and then that's it. That's all we hear of it. And then the rest of the score is pretty generic score. Either it's generic creepy or generic comedy style music. You know, like from the Beethoven movies or something. Yeah, it sounds kind of like that. I don't have the soundtrack. I have the ride's soundtrack. I listen to it all the freaking time because it's awesome. Gotta have that Paul Frees, man. But in the end, if we're talking about the 2003 Haunted Mansion movie, that's what it is. It's the kind of movie you have to turn off your brain for. Eddie Murphy gave it his all. Terrence Stamp gave it his all. Everyone else? No. The made-up story is pretty cliche. The actual Haunted Mansion stuff, although I enjoy seeing it, it is all shoehorned into the movie because there's no reason really for any of it to be there. They don't add to the plot. Some of the music is good, some is generic. All in all, this movie's honestly kind of forgettable. But hey, here's hoping they do better with the reboot. They got a legit cast: Rosario Dawson, Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito. I guess we'll see in a few months. So, The Haunted Mansion from 2003. Have you seen this movie? What are your thoughts on it? Are you looking forward to the reboot? Do you think it'll be any good? And are you a fan of the original ride? What are your thoughts on that? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment.
And of course, thank you for subscribing.
Peace.